It was my mother's frantic whisper on the phone that shattered the life I thought I had. "Grace, you need to come home right now. Don't tell Jacob. Just come." That call, 2 days before my 10th wedding anniversary, set everything in motion. My husband, Jacob, was supposedly on a week-long business trip in Chicago, a crucial negotiation for his architecture firm. He'd video called me that morning from his hotel room, the generic beige decor in him in a crisp white shirt, promising to be back in time for our anniversary dinner at our favorite restaurant. He'd even winked and said he had a surprise. I'd blushed, thinking of the silk lingerie tucked in my own drawer, my own surprise for him. But my mother, who lives in the same town as Jacob's older sister, Clara, had seen something. Clara, who never liked me much, had been in a local cafe, boasting loudly to a friend about her brilliant brother and how he was finally living his best life on a well-deserved tropical vacation. My mother, seated behind a potted fern, had frozen. She heard the words Maui, 5-star resort, and that lovely young intern from his office. When Clara noticed her, the conversation had died a sudden, cold death. Clara had left without a word. My blood turned to ice. A tropical vacation? With an intern? Jacob's firm didn't have any projects in Hawaii. His itinerary said Chicago. I felt a strange attachment, as if I were watching someone else's life through a foggy window. I told my mother I'd handle it, my voice eerily calm. I didn't confront him. Not yet. Instead, I became a ghost in my own home. I went through his study, a space I rarely entered, respecting his need for a creative sanctum. The key to his filing cabinet was in a small Chinese lacquer box on his desk, a place he thought I'd never look. Inside, under folders labeled tax documents, I found a manila envelope. It contained printed email exchanges, not from his work email, but from a personal account I didn't know he had. The subject lines were innocuous: Project Sunrise, client follow-up. The contents were not. They were love letters. Passionate, poetic, painfully cliché love letters to someone named Natalie. References to that weekend in Napa, our secret spot by the lake, and how you look in the morning light. The most recent one, dated 3 days ago, detailed his excitement for their anniversary getaway in Maui, mocking the cover story he'd fed his dull, domestically obsessed wife. The word dull felt like a physical slap. I'd given up a promising career in graphic design to manage our home, to support his relentless climb, to be the steady foundation he always said he needed. I was the one who remembered his mother's birthday, who dealt with the contractors, who held him when stress kept him awake. Though, numbly, I photographed every page. Then, I did something I'd never considered before. I called Jacob's father, Arthur. Arthur was a man of formidable principle, a former Marine colonel who built a successful logistics company from the ground up. He had always treated me with a gruff kindness, often telling Jacob he'd married up. He valued loyalty above all. He was also, due to Jacob's previous financial recklessness in his 20s, the controlling trustee of Jacob's sizable trust fund and the inheritance from his mother. Jacob stood to gain full control only at 40, a milestone 3 years away, or upon Arthur's approval of his maturity and stability. Arthur was at his country club when I called. "Grace, to what do I owe the pleasure?" His voice was warm. "Arthur, I need to see you. It's urgent. It's about Jacob." The warmth vanished, replaced by a commander's alertness. My study, 1 hour. Sitting in Arthur's dark-paneled study, surrounded by models of ships and metals and glass cases, I felt small but resolute. I handed him my phone with the photos. I said nothing as he scrolled, his face hardening into a granite mask. The only sound was the slow tick of a grandfather clock. He put the phone down carefully. "Have you spoken to him?" "No." "Good." He steepled his fingers. This Natalie. She's a new intern at his firm, the one he praised for her fresh perspective at dinner last month. I nodded, remembering. Jacob had talked about her enthusiasm, her talent. I'd felt a faint, foolish prick of jealousy I'd brushed aside as ungenerous. Arthur's jaw worked. A coward and a liar. He dishonors you. He dishonors his family. He looked at me, his eyes sharp. What do you want to do, Grace? I want a divorce. The words finally spoken aloud felt terrifying and liberating. Then you shall have one, and you will not leave this marriage with nothing. He leaned forward. My will currently leaves the bulk of my estate to Jacob, with provisions for you and the children you might have. That will change. The trust fund he is so eagerly awaiting will be restructured. If you divorce him for infidelity, and we have the proof, he will get nothing before his 40th birthday, and possibly nothing after. The inheritance will be redirected to you in its entirety. A wave of dizziness hit me. This was beyond alimony. This was a seismic shift. Arthur, I don't expect. It's not about expectation, he cut in, his voice like iron. It's about consequence. It's about justice. He made vows. He broke them. He does not get to keep the rewards of the life you helped him build while he sneaks around with a child young enough to be his daughter. He paused. He will be notified of my decision. The choice will be his. He can end this filth and beg for your forgiveness on his knees, genuinely, and perhaps salvage a fraction of what he was due. Or he can lose it all. But Grace, you must be prepared. He will not take this well. I left Arthur's house feeling like I was carrying a live wire. The next day, Jacob returned from Chicago, tanned and bearing a necklace of black pearls, a gift, he said, from a grateful client. The irony was exquisite. I waited until he'd showered, until he was relaxed on the sofa, boasting about the tough negotiations. How was Maui, Jacob? I asked, my voice quiet. The color drained from his newly tanned face. What were you talking about? Natalie, the intern, Project Sunrise, the secret spot by the lake. I listed them like items on a grocery list. Your father has seen the emails. The transformation was instantaneous. Panic, then fury. You went through my things. You spied on me. You dragged my father into our private business. It wasn't private business, I said, still calm, amazed at my own stillness. It was the destruction of my marriage. And your father's business is his money, which, as of yesterday, he has decided to leave to me if I divorce you, which I am. The fury turned to a sneer. So that's it. The quiet little housewife reveals her true colors. A gold digger. You've been waiting for this, haven't you? A payday. His words should have hurt, but they bounced off the armor my pain had forged. I earned every penny of that future by believing in you. You're the one who threw it away for a vacation fling. You have a choice, Jacob. You can deal with the consequences of your actions, or you can fight your father. But you won't fight me. I have the proof. He stormed out that night. The formal divorce papers arrived a week later. I'd moved into a rented apartment, using savings my mother had helped me squirrel away years ago. A just-in-case fund I'd never thought I'd need. Jacob, as predicted, chose to fight. He contested the divorce, claiming irreconcilable differences and painting me as emotionally distant, as the one who had neglected the marriage. His lawyer, a shark in an expensive suit, lowballed the settlement offer to an insulting degree. He was going to make me spend every cent I had to get what was fair. My own parents were torn. My mother, furious on my behalf, supported me completely. My father, a pragmatic man, worried. Grace, taking Arthur's money, it's a nuclear option. It will make you a target. It will get ugly. Are you sure you want that war? Can't you just take a fair settlement and walk away? But fair felt meaningless. Fair was what Jacob had decided was fair when he lied to me. Fair was him thinking he could have a wife and a mistress and his inheritance. I was done with his version of fair. The legal battles began. Mediation sessions were exercises in humiliation, with Jacob's lawyer picking apart my contributions to the marriage. I was unemployed. My career was a distant memory. I had no measurable financial input. Jacob sat silently, letting his lawyer do the dirty work, his eyes cold. I started looking for jobs, but a 7-year gap in my resume was a chasm few were willing to cross. The savings dwindled. The stress was a constant, gnawing presence. Arthur stayed true to his word. He had his lawyer send formal notice to Jacob's legal team about the change in the will and trust. It was not a threat. It was a statement of fact. This seemed to inflame Jacob further. His offers became even worse. Then, during a particularly brutal mediation, Jacob snapped. His lawyer was arguing against spousal support again when Jacob slammed his hand on the table. Why should I support her when she's stealing my birthright? She's turned my own father against me. She's a manipulative bitch. The mediator called for a break. I was shaking, not from fear, but from a pure, white-hot rage. I called Arthur from the parking lot. "It's not working," I said, my voice cracking. "He's going to drag this out until I'm bankrupt." Arthur was silent for a moment. Then we changed tactics. Stop fighting him on his terms. Accept his pittance. "What?" "No, I can't." "Listen to me, Grace. Accept his miserable offer. Finalize the divorce quickly on his terms. Let him think he's won. Let him think he's broken you, and that I will, in time, relent. But I will not. The will is changed. It is irrevocable. My lawyers have structured it to be unchallengeable based on his misconduct. Once the divorce is final and he has won, I will release a stipend to you, a generous monthly stipend for my personal holdings, not the trust. It will be legally a gift, untouchable by him. I will also introduce you to the head of marketing at my old company. They need a creative director. The job is yours if you want it. You rebuild your life, secure, on his money and my support, while he waits for a fortune that will never come. It was a masterstroke. It required me to swallow my pride, to publicly accept a defeat. But it was a short-term loss for a lifelong victory. It would protect me from further legal predation. I took a deep, shuddering breath. Okay. The next session, I capitulated. I accepted Jacob's derisory alimony offer and a child support payment based on a fraction of his actual income. I agreed to a 50-50 custody split for our future dog. We had no children, a sadness that now felt like a mercy. I saw the triumph in Jacob's eyes. He'd beaten me. He'd protected his assets. He leaned over as we left the final hearing, his breath hot in my ear. "You see? You get what you deserve." Nothing. I said nothing. I just walked away. The divorce was finalized in a bleak courtroom. I signed the papers, feeling a strange emptiness. A week later, I started my new job at Arthur's company. The first paycheck, for work I loved, felt like a rebirth. The first stipend from Arthur arrived in my account with a note, "For your freedom, no strings." I rented a better apartment. I bought new clothes that weren't chosen to be appropriate for an architect's wife. I started living. 6 months later, the bomb detonated. Jacob, believing the storm had passed, had finally approached Arthur about a major investment he wanted to make in his firm. Needing access to his trust capital, Arthur had him come to the study. He recounted the conversation to me later with a grim satisfaction. I showed him the executed, filed will and the trust amendments. I told him the capital was forever out of his reach. that upon my death, everything, the company holdings, the properties, the investments, would transfer to a foundation in your name, with you as the sole trustee. He would receive an annual allowance, a modest sum for life, nothing more. Jacob, he said, had exploded. He'd screamed accusations, called him a traitor, called me a witch. He'd begged. He'd threatened to sue. Arthur had remained impassive. The clauses are ironclad, Jacob. They are based on moral turpitude. You can sue. You will lose. And you will be disinherited from even the allowance. Now get out of my house. Jacob showed up at my apartment that night, a broken, hysterical man. The tan was gone, replaced by a pallor. His eyes were wild. You have to talk to him. You have to tell him to change it back. This is my money, my life. I stood in my doorway, not letting him in. You made your choices, Jacob. You chose Natalie. You chose to lie. You chose to fight me for every crumb. This is the consequence. This is what you deserve. I'll tell everyone, he shrieked. I'll tell everyone you're a gold-digging whore who turned a father against his son. Tell them, I said softly, my voice finally finding the steel that had been growing inside me for months. Show them the emails. Show them your tan from your business trip. I have nothing left to hide. You've taken everything else. But you don't get to take my future. Goodbye, Jacob. I closed the door. I heard him slump against it, then slide down, his sobs muffled through the wood. I didn't open it. I walked to my window, looking out at the city lights, lights I was now part of, independent and unbroken. The quiet little housewife was gone. In her place was someone who had walked through fire and emerged, not dull but tempered, strong. I never saw Jacob again in person. He sends the occasional bitter email, which I delete unread. Arthur and I have lunch every other week. He's teaching me about the business, about the foundation I will one day run. We talk about art, about travel, about life. There is a quiet, respectful affection between us, forged in the crucible of his son's betrayal. My parents eventually came around, especially when they saw me thriving. My shoulders no longer hunched with worry. My mother hugged me tightly one day and said, "You glowed when you married him, but now you shine. It's a different light. It's all your own." Sometimes on quiet evenings, I think about the black pearl necklace. I never wore it. I sold it. The money bought me a drafting table, a beautiful, solid piece of furniture where I now sketch for my job and sometimes just for myself. It's a better use for the pearls, I think. A foundation for a new creation, not a souvenir of a lie. The past is a closed book, its ending written in a courtroom and a colonel's study. My story now is just beginning.